Good afternoon, good evening to everybody, to our panel of speakers who have made the incredible effort to be with us today, to join us on this program to speak about the dire humanitarian situation in Yemen as a direct result of the ongoing aggression against the state of Yemen. We use the word aggression because it is to contrast it with a civil war. If this was a civil war, we wouldn't have a coalition of many countries pounding one country to smithereen, specifically targeting its infrastructure, and a great deal of that infrastructure included food storages, farms, and any place where the factories, any place where there was food production going on. And quite a lot of experts on the scene in Yemen have concluded that the Saudi coalition's policy in approaching the matter of Yemen, of trying to be in a position of controlling the destiny of the people of Yemen, or controlling their country, occupying it, was using hunger as a weapon of war. This is a very, very unfortunate decision to make by anybody, because it is not political. It is very, very inhumane. And I can assure you that it is so illegal that the consequences are very serious. And it's just a matter of time until the people of Yemen and their governing parties are able to take the necessary legal steps, which I'm sure they will do in due course, to hold those who are responsible for this accountable. Everybody who has been observing the situation in Yemen for the past 6 years have confirmed that using hunger as a weapon of war is just completely wrong, is out of order. The humanitarian situation is particularly painful to look at, to think about. As we're speaking, there are children dying literally every 10 minutes. There are people who are dying of serious diseases like cancer, unable to get medication because ships that carry food, fuel and medicine are detained unlawfully by the Saudi-led coalition. And so the people are just suffering. There's just ongoing torture. If you can imagine Yemen as just one big torture camp, that's basically what it is. Don't be misled about hearing things about like the southern parts, which they refer to as the freed parts, as being better. In reality, those parts are far worse off than the northern parts that are under the control of Sana'a government. And insofar as they have total lack of security, they have widespread terrorism problems there. And so it's chaos on chaos throughout the Yemen. And that chaos is entirely attributable to the Saudi-led coalition's intervention in the affairs of Yemen on the 26th of March 2015. And they were hoping that by going in there and pounding the Yemen to smithereen, within days or weeks, they would be able to control the whole of Yemen and force the Houthi, what they refer to as Houthis, which in fact is the Sana'a government, which contains all political parties of Yemen, will cause them to surrender and submit and give them their country and let them do what they like with it. But 6 years on, that didn't happen. The people of Yemen are continuing. 80% of the population are under the control or under the supervision, under the care of Sana'a government. Mostly IDPs from the parts that they refer to as freed parts, which they are not freed, as I've just explained. And this variety of misleading things like internationally recognized government, a restoration of those, or enforcing UN Security Council Resolution 2216, which again is a lie, because that resolution was passed 3 weeks after the commencement of the Saudi-led coalition intervention in Yemen. And so all in all, there is no legal basis for Saudi-led coalition intervening in the affairs of Yemen and using military power so devastating to the country and its people for the past 6 years that it can only be referred to as an act of aggression, because it is. And I am saying this to you, having consulted with great many experts on the matter of international law. Great many lawyers have agreed with me on this point, and they all aver and confirm that this is an aggression. This is not a civil war, as the Saudi coalition and their backers often refer to. And so today we have an impeccable panel of speakers, exceptional people of great respect and personality from the UK and Norway and the US. We have a panel of speakers who have got vast experience in the world of human rights campaigns and aid provision. We have an award-winning journalist as well, who for some technical reason has not yet arrived, and we're waiting for him to join us later on. I'm going to start with our first speaker from Britain, Stephen Bell. Stephen Bell is the treasurer of Stop the War Coalition, an organization that was set up in 2003 to overcome the problem about the proposed then Iraqi intervention by Britain and the US and their allies. The debacle is the other expression to describe that. Stephen has been tirelessly working on the in the field of human rights and supporting vulnerable and oppressed people in the world, such as the Palestinian cause. He's been right at the forefront there in campaigning for their rights. He's been also in relation to the cause of Yemen for the past 6 years, tirelessly and with absolute admirable integrity. He has been supporting the cause of Yemen, holding events, holding demonstrations, joining inside events at the UN Human Rights Council, speaking about the situation in Yemen and what has been happening. So in effect, Steve has now become more or less one of us, a member of the Yemeni community, insofar as he knows so much about the situation in Yemen. And Stephen is an outstanding person, outstanding human being, and we are honored to have him with us today to speak about the situation in Yemen, and perhaps in particular in relation to our own government in the UK's involvement and participation in the worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kim, for very kind words. Firstly, I think that we have to locate the whole issue of the blockade within the framework of the general offensive war against the Yemeni people. I very much agree with the statement made by the Brookings Senior Fellow, Bruce Riedel, when he described the blockade as, quote, an offensive military operation that kills civilians. And I think that is exactly what it is. So we have to aim for the lifting of the blockade and the ending of the war simultaneously. It's hard often to grasp the impact of the war and the blockade on the Yemeni people as a whole. I think one of the ways to do this is to look at its whole impact upon the economy of Yemen. If you take the total product, the gross domestic product of Yemen in 2014, that represented $43.2 billion. By 2020, as a result of the war and the blockade, that had been halved to more than half to $21.45 billion. And at the same time as the total economy has shrunk in half, the population of Yemen has grown, so that in 2014 it was 25.8 million Yemenis. By 2020 it was 29.8. So the economy has shrunk, the population has grown, and the extent of this is that the average per person, per capita GDP in 2014 was $1,674. By 2020, that had shrunk to $720. And you translate that into the living standards and the welfare of the people of Yemen, and then you explain the greatest catastrophe on the face of the earth today. In terms of the situation, I don't think there's much argument, certainly from UN sources and multilateral organizations, on its severity. The UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, for instance, recently stated that by June, half the population, 16.2 million people, will face crisis levels of food food insecurity. Meanwhile, with a new US government in place, we are looking for some sort of progress, some sort of breakthrough in these circumstances. Unfortunately, at the moment, the US government is still pretending that the Saudi Arabian government's proposed ceasefire is somehow a new proposal, and that the US government has even said that, quote, the Saudi government is committed and keen to find a solution to the conflict. Well, if that is the case, please explain this. In March, according to the Yemen Data Project, there were 178 air raids. This compares to, this makes it the highest degree of number of air raids since October. And yet, supposedly, the coalition are looking for a peace. On the contrary, as the situation worsens, and the absolute crisis of the Saudi project is asserting itself, so diplomacy is being used to hide the fact there are no new initiatives currently underway. We could see whether there was real initiatives underway in March when we came to the donors conference to assist, because obviously people have spent 6 years destroying Yemen. So one would expect that the donors would now be anxious, if they are moving to a solution, to increase their commitment on the rebuilding of Yemen. Now, the UN's humanitarian plan for 2021, the estimates is $3.85 billion needed. So far, they've received just $442 million, just about a 12th of what they need for the year. Yet, the total pledge at the March conference was $1.67 billion, less than half of what is needed for the whole year. And the people pledging are somehow suggesting that their commitment to the solution, Yemen's solution, and solving the humanitarian problems is real and substantial. Now, these are the same people who last year, while continuing the war, managed to halve the amount of aid given to Yemen on the previous year. So as the situation is getting worse, the amount of aid is declining, not increasing. And unfortunately, these same governments, particularly the British and the United States governments, are actually boasting about the amount of aid that they are giving to Yemen. But let's look at the facts. The US government, since the start of the war, has provided $3.4 billion in aid to Yemen. Sounds a lot of money. However, you then compare that to the fact that in that same period, the US government has sold $64.1 billion worth of arms to Riyadh. 64.1 billion. That's 19 times more profits they've made from the war than aid they've actually given. We'll take the British government. The British government says we have given $1 billion in aid to Yemen since the start of the war. At the same time, the figures they publicized indicate that they have sold arms worth $5.3 billion to the pounds to Riyadh. That would be 5 times as much in destroying the country as in aiding the country. But actually, that's probably an underestimate. Andrew Feinstein, who is a acknowledged expert on the world arms trade, says that the figure is probably closer to 10 billion, on the basis that the British government issues licenses, some of which can be a single license can cover a number of multiple purchases. So at least 5 and perhaps 10 times as much profit has been made by the British government and British firms than has been spent in aiding Yemen. So to finish my closing remarks, I think that's where we are. We are at a position where formally the powers which are aiding the Saudi coalition are providing it with an alibi for its continued war upon the people of Yemen, and at the same time they're profiting hugely from that very same war. So I think that the humanitarian situation will continue to worsen unless we are able to break this logjam, whereby on the one hand they're saying we favour peace, we favour aid, and on the other hand they're pursuing a war and making a lot of money out of it.
Thank you very much, Stephen. That was amazing, detailed analysis of the economic side of the situation. And yes, you are right. There is a great deal of benefits for those who are warmongers. They're more interested in making profits out of the blood of other human beings, and nobody really matters. And so it's really refreshing for us to hear from a British man in England saying it exactly as it is with such confidence and bravery. Much respect to you, sir, and we very much appreciate your support throughout. And no doubt I will come back to you because there are a couple of other questions that I need to be putting to you. We're now going to move on to our next speaker, who is an amazing doctor from Norway, all the way from Norway. Dr. Trond Ali Linstad has been a devoted, caring person above his profession as a doctor in terms of ethics. This is the best example you can get about doctors being deeply ethical and being caring about human beings and their welfare. Dr. Trond has been very successful at setting up orphanages in difficult situations such as Somalia, where he has had an orphanage there, very successfully running it. And he also has other projects to help people, vulnerable people, oppressed people in Norway itself, as well as overseas. And very recently, he has started working in Yemen as well. He has been working in the matter of assisting widows make their own living out of workshops and projects such as that, self-sufficiency projects to help widows and their orphans make their own living, bearing in mind what's happening in terms of the economic situation in the country. Basically, everyone is facing literally famine there. So without much, Dr. Trond is also the founder of the Islamic Endowment, which does all these projects under the organization known as Orthagen Stiftelsen. I hope I have said that right, Dr. Trond, and I leave you the floor to say it the correct way to pronounce the organization's name. Thank you very much for being with us today, sir. Thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to this conference. It's an honor and it's a pleasure for me to be together with you discussing the issue of Yemen. And maybe I'd like to start like this, that, dear friends, please let me first send my best regards to the people of Yemen. Strong, proud, and committed for self-determination and independence from regional and international powers wanting to control and govern them. Locally, Saudi Arabia and its allies, internationally, United States, France, England, and other powers. Honorable Yemeni people facing such powers and resisting their unjust attempts for control and dominance. This is a costly matter for the Yemeni people to stand up in this position of struggle and resistance. The enemies, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, United States, Western powers, have turned to open terrorism to try to subdue the people of Yemen. The result is the worst humanitarian crisis in over time. I think all of you know the details in this situation. So the question is, what can be done? Friends of Yemen have important tasks in trying to stop the war. Friends of Yemen must expose the character of the war, foreign powers trying to bomb and terrorize the people of Yemen into submission. Friends of Yemen must consider what kind of help can be offered also on the humanitarian level. All of these matters are most important for us, friends of Yemen, and we should get involved in all of them. I am representing Urtehagen International. This is a non-profit social institution in Oslo, Norway, and we are happy to be invited to establish and support a self-sufficiency project in Amara, Yemen. The project is to make a sewing center for widowed women of martyrs in Yemen to give them their own economical base. Please let me say a few words about the project itself, but maybe first, if you allow me, to present some of our experiences and our backgrounds for getting involved in this project, a great honor for us, actually. Urtehagen International is a non-profit institution doing social and humanitarian work, and we have established some projects which I think is important as a background for us, even to support now people in Yemen. I should try to, if you allow me, show some photos, inform you about these activities, which is our activities, and we hope to bring our experiences also further to Yemen. I know that you have a well-experienced technical person trying to help us. Maybe I should ask him if he can present some of these matters. If not, I will try it myself. But it would be nice if he could help us. So I ask if this is possible first. Thank you.
Yes, sir. As far as the technical assistant is concerned, we only received the videos from the sister, unfortunately, who I understand is physically not well at the moment. And so perhaps you can put the photographs to us about the background of your organization. When we come to the video, we will play the video for you.
I will see if we can manage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Urtehagen International. We are operating an orphanage.
طبعا تمت نهاية هذه الدورة بإخراج 15 منتجة والحمد لله. وبعد العيد إن شاء الله نقوم بدورة أخرى للمتبقيات.
I think again we returned to our activities. Also for an information for you, please. Urtehagen, we are doing some humanitarian work in Borro in Somalia, north of Somalia in Somaliland. This is Urtehagen in that area. We have established an orphanage in this city, Somali city. We are showing you some of the orphans, the children. We have some 100 children receiving help living in that center. We are glad to see that they are well taken care of. We hope they are happy staying in our orphanage. We also have a handicap center for handicapped children, taking care of them, daycare center. We have built a school for the children. Some of the children, when they finish the ground school education, some of them are moving to higher education. We are happy really to have been able to help them into these steps. We have a focus on Palestine. When the Israeli bombed Gaza, terrorized Gaza, we collected money. We bought an ambulance. We sent it from Oslo down to Gaza, helping people suffering from the Israeli bombardments. We collected money. We bought an ambulance and sent it to Somalia, a hospital in Somalia. We have friendly relations with Palestinian football teams, sporting teams in Gaza. We are supporting money also to social institutions, Bethlehem. Palestine always is in our mind. We have good friends. We cooperate with them. We call the association Friends of Jerusalem, imams, the Bishop of Jerusalem, Rabbi Weiss, a Jewish rabbi, part of the Neturah Karta, which is Jews against Zionism, Jews against the State of Israel, joining the Friends of Jerusalem Al-Quds. We are arranging demonstrations. We also have relations with a Christian group for orphans in the Philippines. They thank for frontliners. We hope to be frontliners indeed. Who is supporting our work? We are operating a secondary school for immigrant ladies. We are happy with this school we are operating. They are clever girls, ladies working. They are collecting money, and they are strong ladies. They also take part in this work. They also can do it. This is some of the teachers. We have sport activities for the women. Be careful, she's strong. And this is the board of Urtehagen, Stiftelse, board of Urtehagen International. Strong ladies everywhere. With this background, we are happy now to turn also to Yemen to see if we can be of some help in Yemen for the people of Yemen. We are in the streets. We have a caravan distributing materials about the war. We have started to collect money. And we are happy that we have been invited for activities within this old building. We are there starting this sewing center for widowed children of martyrs. We have bought sewing machines, different kinds. Ladies are learning to handle this handicraft, and already they are making clothes which they are selling on the market and getting economical base for themselves. This is part of the clothes they have made recently. Urtehagen, together with Al-Sara Association. We are happy indeed for this work, and we hope to continue this work. We hope that we will be able to establish similar centers elsewhere in Yemen. So I invite you, all of you, to take part in this work if you have time and would like to do it. You can have our address, our bank accounts also from the organizers of this television program. So this is part of our social work, and we want to expand it into Yemen, because Friends of Yemen, they need a lot of challenges to be handled, and we are happy to be there. So thank you indeed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Trond. That was an amazing display of very, very valuable information about your vast amount of work all over the world. I was only aware of your projects in Africa, But I'm really pleased to see that you're also active in Palestine and elsewhere. And of course, you're more than welcome to come and join us in our efforts to help the people of Yemen. And I can confirm that we have recently worked with your organization in the establishing of the sewing center for the orphans and widows in Amran, and that was a very successful project. Already the ladies are producing beautiful dresses which can be sold for their Eid coming for after month of Ramadan, and that would be inshallah very profitable for the ladies, and they will have something to survive on. I personally really admire the clothing that I saw, line that I saw myself. If these were available in the shops here in the UK, I would buy for myself quite a few, I can assure you. They're just beautiful. And so the talent is there, the manpower is there, the desire is there, the willingness is there, but the support is not there. And let's talk about financial support in Yemen, and of course the meetings they have at the UN level with the donors conferences. Let's be honest. Firstly, a lot of the money that the Saudi regime and the Emirati regime quite often speak about when people complain about their crimes in Yemen, specifically about why they are starving millions of people in Yemen, the Saudi regime and the Emirati regime's often response is that, oh, they are giving a lot of aid to these people. Now, where does this aid go is the very, very, very important question. Firstly, they are insisting that Mr. Hadi and his Quango, whose term under the Gulf Initiative had expired in February 2012, are still the government of Yemen, which is impossible legally, politically, diplomatically, and under any other heading that you can think about. People whose term had ended had ended. That does it means you cannot insist that these people are the government simply because you have a lot of money and you can influence and use your money to silence the UN and other people. So the suggestion that these people are the legitimate government, I am telling you, is a gross abuse and violation of the sovereignty of the state of Yemen and its people, and gross abuse and violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Because whilst they say it's the legitimate government, what they really mean in essence is we will compel, bully, influence countries of the world to not recognize any other government for Yemen except these people who we choose. That's basically what it means. And unfortunately, a lot of countries in the world are going along with this without asking the question, how does this legitimacy arise in the first place? And is it just going on 6 years later with there not being any end in sight? Is this a kingdom or a republic? Yemen is a republic. It has a constitution. The constitution, as all lawyers will tell you, doesn't die simply because there is a change of government or there is a revolution or a coup. The constitution always remains alive. This is a concept in law internationally known as the grand norm. So the grand norm hasn't died in Yemen, and there are people operating it today, and it's in Sana'a. So these people are being deliberately starved to deny them the right to govern their country. They also enjoy massive public support. Millions of people come to the streets of Sana'a and elsewhere to show support to this government in Sana'a. But what the Saudi coalition and their backers are saying is that we will starve everybody, we will collectively punish everyone and cause them to suffer, and we will bomb them, and we will also cause a famine, thereby detaining ships that have gone through UN search mechanism and have received passes to dock at port of Hodeidah, but we will commit acts of piracy against these ships that carry food, fuel, and medicine to force the people of Yemen to accept what we are superimposing on them as their government, the alleged legitimate government whose term, as I have just explained, had ended with the expiry of the Gulf Initiative in February 2014. So where does the money of aid coming from these two countries go? The money obviously gets paid to Hadi and his people. That is, if they actually pay the money. As far as I'm aware, a lot of the money hasn't even been paid to the aid agencies. They are still awaiting a lot of the money that they were pledged or promised ages ago. They haven't received it. And so what money gets paid then to what they call as the Central Bank of Yemen, which is basically a forceful removal of the Central Bank of Yemen from the capital Sana'a into its temporary accommodation in Aden. And the bank is obviously gets looted quite a lot. Its funds are going completely haywire insofar as they're issuing a lot of new banknotes to cover their losses. And in reality, any money that goes into Yemen goes into the hands of these traitors who live in Riyadh, Cairo, and Istanbul hotels, and they are buying assets like nobody's business. Even in London, there are some parts in London which now contain assets being purchased by these traitors from money that they receive from the Saudi coalition and elsewhere. And so they have been buying luxurious hotels, restaurants, real estates in Cairo, in Istanbul, and even in London, and possibly Liverpool, because at least one person who is based in Liverpool I know of has been receiving payment directly from the Saudi-led coalition to come on the BBC and other channels to tell a pack of lies about the situation in Yemen, to mislead the world as part of the propaganda. The least paid of them is this one, based in Liverpool, receives $100,000 per annum. And I received this information from leaked documents coming from the Saudi government itself. They often leak these lists in order to possibly encourage other people to sell their country and join their ranks. That's what I believe. Or just expose these cheap traitors who are selling their countries for a fistful of dollars. So the money doesn't go to the people of Yemen because people in the south are as starving as the people in the north. Only a couple of days ago, my colleagues have sent me a video. I am the foreign relations officer for the Southern Peace and Conciliation Association, and they often supply me with very important information about the situation in the southern parts. And an old woman in the Abian area, Zanzibar, is crying. It breaks my heart just to remember that scene. It's about a 1 minute video. This woman, an old woman, crying, saying, and she looks skinny. We are hungry. We are starving. Why is the world left us like this? We have no food. We have nothing happening to us. So basically, to wrap it up, any money paid in aid for Yemen, whether it's from Britain, from the US, any other country, or even the Saudi-led coalition, does not go to the people of Yemen. It goes to the pockets of the traitors. It goes to fund Aqab and Daesh, to buy them weapons. And they do get actually weapons directly from the Saudi regime, because when the Sana'a government army and popular committees recaptured the Al-Bayda governorate, they have also captured a whole load of Aqab and Daesh militia terrorists. And these were nationalities from Chechnya, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from Sudan, from Egypt. Nationalities from all over the place have been brought into Yemen. I believe they were exported from Syria. Having failed in Syria, they have now been rehoused in Yemen, as it were. And they also found caches of weapons with these terrorists. And these caches of weapons clearly bear Saudi emblem, Saudi flags everywhere. So they are arming terrorists, known terrorists in Yemen. Of course, just law also declares them to be involved in the mother of all terrorism, 9/11. And to date, we don't see even the progressives in the US taking any steps to prosecute this regime for being implicated or involved in terrorism. Instead, they're getting diplomatic, political, economic, and all manner of support from the US and the UK to continue their genocidal campaign in Yemen. It's no exaggeration to say genocidal, because that is exactly what's happening. As I just explained, it's heartbreaking to see people in the southern governments, which are supposed to be free, crying of hunger. Elderly people have nothing to eat. Likewise, children, they are dying at the same rate as is the situation in the northern parts, where food, fuel, and medicine is actually denied deliberately in order to force the people to submit to the imperial agendas. This is nothing short of imperial agenda. If you don't believe what I am saying, I would strongly recommend that you read widely about what's happening in Yemen from independent sources, in particular about the policy of using hunger as a weapon of war. In a report from Professor Martha Mundy called the Strategies of the War by the Saudi Coalition in Yemen. This is a very compelling report. It's not very long, but it's amazingly well researched and well written, and does clarify why even aid agencies have been abysmal in their supposedly apolitical stance. In fact, it is highly political, because it's very much pro-Saudi coalition by their silence, by their not speaking up as they're supposed to. One last thing I'm going to say is that there are 4 million disabled people in Yemen as a direct result of this war. I suppose this figure has not come out from any of the UN agencies, but it has come out from a Yemeni lady expert who who works with NGOs, and she was part of a conference held by the Sana'a allied ambassador to Yemen in Syria. And this event has been recorded. I was heartbroken to hear her speak about this figure. It's very shocking. If you have 4 million people disabled in a country going through what's happening in Yemen for 6 years, you can also take some of that figure, maybe very large numbers of that figure, into those who are also facing famine. So imagine being disabled, IDP, facing famine in Yemen today. And the Saudi coalition continues, is pounding. Only yesterday, apparently, they raided Marib with at least 20 airstrikes. And quite a lot of these airstrikes often are targeted on civilians. The civilians are being punished for having the dignity or the fortitude to demand that they are the owners of their own sovereignty and decision makers of their own country's future. And one last thing I will say about the policy about starving people or using hunger as a weapon of war. Mr. Mohammed Abdul Salam, who is the team leader of the national negotiations allied to the Sana'a government based in Muscat, Mr. Abdul Salam said that at the last peace negotiations in Kuwait, the US envoy was present there. The US envoy to Yemen was present there, and he came to speak to the team of Sana'a government negotiators, saying to them, you must accept what is being put to you, and if you don't accept that, we will relocate the central bank from Sana'a. We will deny you food and medicine. We will close the airport. We will. He made these direct threats verbatim. Everything that's happening, closure of the Sana'a airport, he threatened that, this US envoy. Detention of the, or piracy of the ships carrying food and fuel to Yemen, he threatened that. He also threatened relocation of the central bank. He has done it. And so people are not being paid their salaries because there is this illegality going on. No country, nobody has a right to relocate the central bank of any country. Nobody has any right to close the airport of any capital of any country. Nobody has any right to punish collectively all civilians. All of these things amount to very, very serious violations of the sovereignty of the state of Yemen and crimes against humanity in Yemen. And of course, this wouldn't be happening if there wasn't in the background Britain and the US aiding and abetting it. I'm going to return to Stephen Bell and put this question to you, Steve. It looks like our other speaker is facing complications, so we get the opportunity to take liberties and speak freely. So I'm going to return to you and say, what do you think we should be doing here in the UK? What should our government be doing? Bearing in mind that it continues to boast about the fact that it is holding the pen to the Yemen file at the UN when it clearly seems to have a very, very serious conflict of interest? What is your view about our current government's involvement in this worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe, and what can we do to confront this situation?
Well, firstly, to return to the way you opened your last contribution in terms of the UN position in support of the so-called international government, and the manner in which the British and the American government in particular are using this as the basis for the continued pursuit of the war. Now, I think the first thing that we have to say is, well, this is an extraordinary thing when you think about it. The only country on the Arabian Peninsula which has a serious experience of democracy and civil society, independent civil society, is Yemen. And yet, apparently, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, where no votes are cast for the government, where if you join a trade union or a political party, you will end up inside a prison and probably be tortured. These governments are somehow going to defend democracy in Yemen. This is a ridiculous thing. But, of course, the preoccupation is that the people of Yemen, if left to their own devices, will create a very radical, outward-going, prosperous society, which is quite independent of what the United States and British government wish to do in the Middle East. And that is why from 2011 onwards, basically these governments, the British government, the American government, and others have done what they can to suppress the will of the Yemeni people. So that's the fundamental problem. The immediate problem that we face in Britain is that the British government is even more enthusiastic than the US government in continuing to pursue a military solution in Yemen. Clearly, after 6 full years of war, we're now in the 7th year of war, there is no prospect, zero prospect of the coalition sustaining a military victory. They've been defeated. They are in a position of an absolute stalemate, and they're falling apart, and they are at war with themselves. Still and all, their backers in Britain and in the United States are concerned about their embarrassment, concerned about the failure, and are trying to find a way out, which somehow hides the reality of the situation. And so what we have to do, the anti-war movement, progressive people in Britain, the United States and elsewhere, is hold our own governments to account and insist that the truth comes out and we really get to the nub of what the issues are. And so in preparation for this meeting, I thought I'd have a look over some of the most recent diplomatic statements of the British government. As you know, the British government is refusing even a pause in arms sales to Saudi Arabia, whereas Biden has frozen some arms sales. It's unclear the extent of this because he talks in terms of the Saudis having the rights to defend themselves. However, there's some limit being imposed from that direction. But from the British government, there's no limit. Right? They're pursuing matters as though it's March 2015 rather than April 2021. So I looked over some of the most recent diplomatic statements. Dame Barbara Woodward, who's the ambassador to the UN Security Council, at the UN Security Council meeting on February the 19th, she said, the United Security Council Resolution 2417 makes clear that humanitarian access must not be impeded. In addition, government of Yemen restrictions on fuel imports are strongly increasing prices. Okay, look, she had a short speech. And that's the nub of what she said. So let's take that apart. Makes clear, the resolution makes clear that humanitarian access must not be impeded. Who's impeding? Who is impeding access? Is it not the United States? Is it not Britain in supporting the siege of the country? Because that's what they're doing. Nothing in what she said saying somehow we maybe are creating difficulties for the people of Yemen. No. This wonderful conventional hypocrisy of British government, whereby they say one thing and do the exact opposite. And I love this thing about, in addition, the government of Yemen restrictions on fuel imports are sharply increasing prices. Now, there's a fiction for you. The government of Yemen restrictions, excuse me, I do not believe that so-called President Hadi is maintaining from Riyadh the siege. I think is the Saudi and the Emirates who are maintaining the siege. But of course, the British government can't admit that. Well, let's move on. When she, again, a further speech she made to Dame Barbara Woodward now, to the Security Council, when she's talking about the need for a political solution rather than a military solution. Of course, Britain is pursuing a military solution by continuing to arm the Saudis, but that doesn't rate a mention. So, but the UK government apparently strongly condemns the escalation of military action in Marib. Well, one can argue about that. There's obviously military action continuing in Marib. But what's notable is there is not a single word from her, not a single word about the continued military action of the coalition. And it takes two to tango. There will be a continued war if you continue to wage an aggressive intervention as the coalition is. I love the next point she made, where she calls for an independent investigation about the fatal fire at the migrant center in Sana'a. Now, clearly that was a tragedy. I'm not in a position to understand all the details of it. The reports I read indicated that there have been arrests made in Sana'a and that there is an investigation underway. Good. Those people deserve justice. But I have to find it incredible when there is this demand from a senior diplomat on behalf of the British government for an independent investigation into one fire, terrible though it was, whereas the British government has done everything possible to prevent an independent investigation into the war crimes of the coalition throughout these 5, 6, and now 7th year. Incredible. So, this is the manner in which that they are approaching it. On the one hand, there is these nice formal positions which they claim to be defending, whether it's humanitarian access, democracy, and so on. On the other hand, they're pursuing a war, maintaining a siege, and denying the people of Yemen any real self-determination. So I think that what we have to do is build and continue some of the work that we have been doing. I think all of us were delighted with the International Day of Action that took place on January the 25th, when across the world people took what action they possibly could. I know since that time there have been actions in Britain on the March the 26th, on the anniversary. We organise a major political rally. Had to be online, unfortunately, but that's the world we live in at the moment. And meanwhile, serious actions took place in North America, other European countries and so on, as well as, of course, the mobilization of the people of Yemen itself on that day. So we have to continue this work. I'm very encouraged by some of the recent developments inside the United States from the United States peace movement. Just this week, for example, we've seen a sit-in near the White House, led by, or one of the leaders of which was Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. At the moment, students are on hunger strike in the United States in support of the people of Yemen, demanding that the US government lifts the siege. And 60 organizations with some considerable authority have written an open letter to Biden demanding the lifting of the siege. Now, these types of initiatives in the United States are clearly very, very significant. And these are the types of things which we have to build on internationally to ensure that there is a counterforce to the official diplomacy and the official cover-up and lies that we are having to deal with.
Thank you very much, Stephen. That was very, very powerful, refreshing analysis and comments that you have read out to us from the representative of the UK at the UN Security Council, Dame Barbara. Like you quite rightly said, there is haute hypocrisy, the height of hypocrisy is there. They're holding the pen, yet they are the party to all of this that's going on. They're pretending there is a legitimate government, as if they haven't read the Gulf Initiative. Dame Barbara, may I refer you to clause 7 of the Gulf Initiative? It will show you that what you're referring to as government had its term ended in February 2014. And furthermore, Dame Barbara, there is a formal letter of resignation tendered by Mr. Hadi shortly before he escaped in women's clothing. And then they come back to accuse the government of Sana'a, who they refer to as Houthis, of interfering with women unlawfully or restricting their freedom. If that was the case, then how did Mr. Hadi and Muhsin al-Ahmar, his deputy, and quite a few others, including members of the Saleh family, like Tariq Afash, manage to escape wearing women's clothing? It's been because they know the government of Sana'a wouldn't harass women at all. All you have to do to get away, to escape from the army and the popular committee, is dress up as I am doing right here. They will not interfere with you. They respect women, they honor them, and they will not interfere with their dignity or rough handle them, as might be the case, for example, in Saudi Arabia or the Emirates, where the princesses themselves are being currently held in abysmal conditions, and one has just disappeared. We don't know if she's dead or alive, and another one is kept in a cage. Apparently there is a cage inside the palace where the women are imprisoned. Anyhow, that's their affair. But as far as Yemen is concerned, you quite rightly pointed out, Stephen, that yes, it is an advanced country, and there's great potential for it to be a true democracy in the region, and that's what's really frightening them. That's why they want to suppress that. They prefer dictatorship because that's what they are. And these people have never seen a constitution or a parliament or the proceedings in a parliament. Their parliament is just the living room of the king, called the Diwan. And of course, you've seen the selection process of a king is normally just having a photo. They just touch the photo, and that's how the voting process takes place. I have no idea what it is that they're voting and under what constitution, but that's what happens. A bit like pharaohic practices in a way, but that's their affair. They have to have their hands off Yemen, and the suggestion that they have come up with a peaceful solution to the situation in Yemen is a pack of lies, again, just like many other of the lies they've been telling. That they have suggested that there be limited flights from Sana'a airport, that they will allow some of the ships to dock without, after they go through search mechanism, etc. And hang on, who are they to decide what should come and go out of Yemen? Resolution 2216 doesn't allow anybody to use force against the state of Yemen. 1. 2, it doesn't affect the whole of Yemen. 3, the resolution itself is invalid because Russia, a very important member, permanent member, a veto holder, had abstained from voting for that resolution. So that makes it actually illegal. You need to review the internal laws and procedures for the Security Council itself to see how a resolution that like that should be passed for it to have the force or the power of law. So the resolution doesn't apply to the whole of Yemen. It is unlawfully passed, and It doesn't empower anybody to use force against Yemen. It was past 3 weeks after the commencement of the act of aggression against Yemen. So the Saudi coalition, Saudi regime, is a principal party of the aggression on Yemen. It cannot now pretend to be a peace broker. So it can't play the part of the peace broker. Britain shouldn't be holding the pen in relation to the Yemen file, because it's been deeply involved in the creation of the worst man-made catastrophe on earth in Yemen right from the start. And in every sense of the word, every step taken by the US, Britain has taken it as well. So they are both parties to it. They can't play peace brokers. They can't play independent people on the file. The Yemen file should be taken away from Britain. That's as simple as that. I mean, it seems Britain has old, unrequited colonial ambition to regain control of Yemen again, because it managed to have control of the south once upon a time until 1967. I don't think it really recovered from the embarrassment of losing control of southern Yemen. And yes, of course, it has that old imperial ambition to regain control. And I can assure you, I have evidence that confirms Britain has a military base in Al-Mahra and Socotra, as well as Al-Anad. This will be some other day's investigation for brave journalists to look into, and let the people of Britain know the truth about what's happening under their name, because there is a war. Britain is conducting it via proxies without parliamentary approval, and that's a very serious problem for us here and for many other countries in the world if we let it pass without there being any questions or accountability. I'm going to return to you, to Dr. Trond, to give you a final say about what you think we should be doing in terms of alleviating the suffering in Yemen, and what is the perception of the authorities in Norway as well as the people of Norway about what they think is happening in Yemen, and do they know what's happening in Yemen, and how can we reach out to our brothers and sisters in Norway to let them know what's happening in Yemen, and see how we may be able to expand our work and work together. I would like to say, before I pass the floor on to you, that I would strongly encourage and highly recommend that people donate generously to your organization. Now that we are coming to the holy month of Ramadan, they must generously donate to your organization, because I am confident, as I have been working with your organization closely myself, that you will be benefiting the most vulnerable people in Yemen. And as I've just said, there are 4 million disabled people, and your organization is very well equipped and an expert in dealing with situations like this. So I'm going to give you the floor without much ado, and please tell us what we can be doing further.
First, if you allow me a small correction, if anybody wants to donate to this work we are doing now in Yemen, for sure they are not donating to us. They are not donating to our organization. They are for sure donating to the people of Yemen, to the widows, women of the martyrs in this area of Yemen. And we will be happy to deliver support given by you to these people in need, these ladies in this Center of Women of Martyrs. So we hope to hear from you, and we hope to cooperate with you, and we hope to develop further these centers and make more centers and do more activities locally among the people of Yemen. That will be a great honor for us. Then it comes to my mind that it is said about the war in Yemen, and it is a terrible matter, terrible situation. But at the same time, somehow, it is said to be a rather quiet war. It is autocracies going on in Yemen, but not much talked about it in television, in newspapers, in radio. It is somehow a quiet war. And then I think we have strength in you experts and other experts. You give us arguments, you give us knowledge, you give us information to stand up and fight further for the people of Yemen. So really, your efforts and your information and your knowledge is important for all of us. So it is important we listen to you and we discuss with you and we are together with you and we improve our knowledge and our intentions for the people of Yemen. You asked about the situation in my country, Norway. And I'm sorry to say that Norway is rather close attached to America, France, England. And when these big powers are quiet about the situation, also the Norwegian press, television, Norwegian politicians are a bit quiet about what's going on. And I'm afraid that I have to admit that this, to a large extent, also is the situation in Norway. The war in Yemen is not in the headlines and the main spotlights, unfortunately. So this is a great challenge for us with your knowledge, other experts' knowledge. We have to reach out, newspapers, to the media, and inform what is really going on and which forces are behind what is going on in Yemen. So this is what we are trying to do on local level, be together with Yemeni people, learn from them, take their knowledge and their experiences into the media in Norway, establish links between people in Norway and people in Yemen, bring us together, and with this strength go out into the media, other places, organizations, and inform them what really is the situation in support of people of Yemen. It is a great challenge, but this is what we have to do, and we will do our best with your assistance and with all other assistance, friends of the people of Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been an amazing honor for me to be in the company of most exceptionally brilliant gentlemen, such as your good selves, showing absolute humanity and support for the people of Yemen. And I hope that the people who have been viewing this program have benefited by gaining a lot of information. And I thank you with all my heart on behalf of 30 million people of Yemen for taking the time and making all the effort to be here with us to speak about the people of Yemen most eloquently. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This now wraps up to the end of our program, and hopefully we'll be together again in similar events and carry on our work. And I'm always here to assist in any way I can. And thank you so much. Thank you.